Good afternoon to everybody who's joined us. Welcome, a very warm welcome to you. We will be starting the webinar in about 2 minutes. So sit back, get your coffee, and we'll see you in 2.
Hello.
Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody. I trust you're all keeping healthy and well. I see we've got quite a number of attendees in the room now, so I will kick it off now. I'm joined this afternoon by Diana and Maria from Interface. They're going to be talking to you today a little bit about how to make your bank work for you. In today's day and age, I think it's something a lot of us could learn from. Any tips and tricks that you could get from anywhere will help. So we're quite excited to have Liana and Maria from Interface in the room. We're looking very forward to the webinar. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us this afternoon. And over to you.
Awesome, Daniela. Thank you so much for that warm introduction and for the opportunity to present Make Your Bank Work for You to our audience. As Daniela said, my name is Liana Henning. I'm part of the wellness team and I'll be your facilitator this afternoon. Just a little bit of background. I've been in the wellness industry for more than 25 years, in the banking industry for about 10 years. So in total, my working experience in the wellness industry is about 25 years. With me, Maria, one of my co-presenters and colleagues. Maria, thank you so much. I know that you will be actively managing our chat function.
Yes.
Encouraging our participants to make use of Menti polling. Maybe you can just quickly explain Menti polling to our participants and what it is all about before we look at the overview of the session.
Good afternoon to everybody. I hope you guys are having a good day so far. My name is Maria, like you've heard from the ladies. I will be attending to the chat function. I will be able to assist with questions or any concerns, anything going on in the chat, I'll be doing that. I just wanted to introduce you to Menti polling. Diana's been kind enough to share the link with everybody in the chat function. I will also share with everyone. Menti polling is you letting us know how you're feeling, what you think, answering a question without actually revealing your identity. So it gives you, the right to remain anonymous while expressing yourself. So all we need you to do is hit the link in the chat function, and then you will be able to go onto Menti and share some of your outlook. So you'll see, if you click on the link, it says it's Tuesday. What word best describes how you're feeling? It's a word cloud. 3 of them. So you can tell us how you're feeling today in a word, in a phrase, in a sentence, a quote, whatever you want to do. We welcome it. So we will love your interaction. It is a very, very important to us for you to have your say and for us to take in the information. So I will be on the chat function. Please just make sure you hit the link, and then you interact with us. If you have any questions, please put them on the chat whilst they're still fresh in your mind, and then I'll be able to answer, or Liana will be able to get to it in the content itself. So sit tight. There's the link in the chat function, and I'm going to just hand over to Liana to kick us off today.
Thank you so much, Maria. And then, of course, following the session, we will be sharing the slides with everybody. So if there's any information that you would like to refer back to, you'll have it at your fingertips. So in this afternoon session, we'll be talking about your banking relationship. And then, of course, what exactly is it that you need from your bank? We'll be touching on some of the product services, some of the loyalty programs through the banks, and, of course, those banking fees that hit our bank accounts as well every single month. But of course, it is important for us to highlight the importance of being aware of cybercrime and fraud in South Africa. And what can you do? Who can you turn to if you actually do need to log a complaint if your bank has not been helpful in that way? So yes, please do pop your questions into the meeting chat. We'll address them as we go along. And of course, at the end of the session, we will allow another couple of minutes for further questions and answers. So when you think about your banking relationship, have you even thought about how many people in South Africa actually has a bank account? Well, the number is around 31 million people have a bank account. And of course, that could be over a broad spectrum of people. But do you actually know how much this bank account is costing you? And the reality is a large percentage of people don't really pay close attention to how much this banking service is costing them. Now, I remember way back when, about 18 years ago, when I worked for one of the major banks in the private banking suite, I certainly never asked my clients at the beginning of a week or wherever it is when I engage with them, what are you paying on your bank services? Do you feel that you're paying too much? How can we actually negotiate this for you? That's not the role of a bank. Of course, they're in it to make money as well. So very important to understand that you know how much you are paying. I'm just keeping an eye on the meeting chat. It looks like I don't see anything on the screen but have audio. Can I please just get confirmation, Daniela? Can you see the slides? Is it up on your side?
No, Liana, not on mine either.
Also not up on your side. Let's quickly
Up
try
on
that.
Mine, but Liana and I are on the same network, so maybe that's why.
Let's quickly do that. Thanks for informing us of that concern. Can I please just get an indication?
Yeah, they are.
Wonderful. So here I am blabbing on and talking about the relationship with your bank, and nobody can see what I'm talking about. So I'm hoping that it is now up. So if I could just get a confirmation in the meeting chat, that would be awesome. Daniela, you say that you can now see it.
Yes, we can. Thanks, Liana.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, of course, it is important to understand exactly how much you are paying on a monthly basis. As I mentioned, I worked in the bank for many, many years, and it was so strange. Just the other day, my husband turned to me and he said, I never realized just how much I'm paying on my bank fees. I thought it would just be one amount that's being debited from my account, but in fact, there's about 3 or 4 different service fees going off my bank account. And of course, that's what is important. We need to scrutinize those bank statements and understand exactly what the fees are that we are paying. Have you thought about what banking needs you actually have? What is it that you need to make use of? Is it that you simply need an account for your salary to go into and to transact? Or is it maybe that you need a little bit more from your bank? And that's, of course, where we will be looking into. I now have some saying that they can see, but they can't hear. So, Daniela, if you could just give me a sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes, Liana, can hear and see you perfectly.
Okay, fantastic. So for our participants, it seems like load shedding and network is unfortunately not in our favor today. So if you cannot hear me, can I maybe recommend that you hop off the call, rejoin the call. Hopefully your connection will then also be stable and you can hear what we are saying. So the reality is we are paying for all of these different services. And what is exactly the best banking package? Well, there's a couple of resources that we can share that you can actually tap into to see exactly how much your banking services are costing you. And I'll be sharing all of that information with you. But what type of relationship do you have with your bank? And is it important to have that personal relationship? Now, around the 1990s, this concept of personal banking came about, where the banks realized, a person is more than just a number. And I always love sharing this story, with my colleagues in the office. I remember starting out in the bank as a young girl, and this one particular client has made such an impression on me, and I still remember his name to this day. And why I remember him, starting my career in the banking industry, was behind the inquiry counter. Now, for those of you who've been to the bank, and you visit on a regular basis, you know that the role of the inquiry clerk really is to support, what can we help you with? In those days, it was about ordering of checkbooks and handing out of checkbooks, and also assisting clients with their bank statements, so printing out a bank statement. And this client walked up to me and he said, "Good morning, young lady. I need a bank statement." And he gave me the period of the bank statement. And I said, "No problem. Please, may I have your bank account?" Because I needed to punch it into my computer to get the bank statement. And at that point, Mr. Roxton Wiggle turned to me and he said, "I'm known by my name and not by my account number." And that's something that has stayed with me for all these years. And I promise you, I learned his number by heart. And whenever I saw him walking into the branch, I would immediately have his bank statement ready for him. But that really is the concept of building a personal relationship with your bank. Do you have that personal relationship? Do you have a private banker or a premier banker or someone that you can connect with when you do have a question around your banking needs? And are you actually paying for that service? Or are you maybe saying, I actually don't need that personal relationship. I am quite happy to go the digital route. I can get my own bank statement. I can follow up on my own inquiry. What is it that you need from your bank, and are you willing to actually pay for that? Now, very often when we look at the banking needs that's required, it would be whether your bank offers you electronic banking. So can you log into an app online so that you can see your bank statement, so that you can transact, so that you can transfer funds, and of course monitor your debit orders? Are you making use of the telephone banking service? You also need to ask the question, what do you need linked to this particular transactional account? Do I need an overdraft facility that I can tap into, and how much is this going to cost me? Do I want to participate in the loyalty program of this particular bank, and what would be the benefits, and how much is this going to cost me? And then, of course, from there, do you need a transactional bank account or a savings account, and what are you doing in terms of investing? But all of these products are available to us, but of course, they all do come at a price. So I want to ask you the question on Mentee polling, and I'm hoping that you've been in a position to participate in the ice-breaking question, which was, what word best describe how you are feeling? The next question then links more to the content that we are discussing today. And of course, I'm asking you, do you have a personal relationship with your bank? Now, you can either click on the link, which is displayed in the meeting chat, or you can simply scan the QR code, which is now displayed on the screen. For ease of reference, I'm going to post the link in the meeting chat again, and you can simply click on it. So when we look at some of your responses, do you have a personal relationship with your bank? 3 of our participants are saying no, now 5. I'm wondering if we're going to have someone that says, I still have that relationship with my bank. Oh, there we go. We've got 1 participant saying, yes, I do have a relationship. 10 of you are now saying no, and 1 person saying maybe. I'm not quite sure. What counts as a relationship? Do I need to connect with them once a week, once a month? Do I need to check in with them annually? What does it actually mean to have a relationship with my bank? So thank you for your participation. Keep on voting. I think at this point we can categorically say that most of our participants do not have a personal relationship with their banks. Now, of course, we have got so many options in South Africa. Long gone are the days where we are restricted to maybe the 4 major banks. And I guess we're all familiar with the 4 major banks, which would be your Standard Bank, Nedbank, Absa, and FNB. We now have Time Bank, there's Sasfin, there is Capitec, there's African Bank, Investec, Imperial. to name but a few. The list goes on and on. So I want to hear from you this afternoon. Who do you bank with? And I see that unfortunately this slide is not pulled through, so I'm not going to pay too much attention on it. But who do you bank with? Maybe you feel comfortable enough to communicate with us in the meeting chat. Just give us an idea. Is it maybe the 4 major? Is it Capitec? Is it maybe African Bank that you've got some form of a relationship with? Or is it another institution? So let me know in the meeting chat. So some of the basic bank terminology that I would like to touch on this afternoon would be, what does it mean when I look at my bank statement and I see withdrawal fees, I see ATM fees, debit order fees, stop order fees? What's the difference between a debit order and a stop order? And then, of course, from there, do I make use of internet banking or my app or telephone banking? What are the monthly service fees, and what would be some of those cash deposit fees that I am being charged? And I'm looking at the meeting chat, Maria. I can see that you are also keeping an eye on that. And it looks like Capitec is quite favorable for many of our participants. I'm seeing quite a number of responses on app. So what do you see on your side, Maria?
Very interesting one is Mukuru Bank. I think that's I might be wrong. Its origins are Zimbabwean. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it allows you to transfer money from here into, I think, some of somebody who's in Zimbabwe. They can access the funds as well. Wina, you must just let me know if I'm right in the chat, but the last I checked, Mukuru Bank was actually affiliated to Zimbabwe. So very interesting. I do see a lot of Nedbank. I don't know if I'm scanning through it with favor, but I see quite a lot of Nedbank. And the interesting one is Discovery Bank, Liana, which obviously landed on the scene quite recently, in the recent years. I think they are giving some of the other banks a run for their money, depending on what kind of service you're looking for. And I think that's what's important about today's session. Understanding what are you looking for, what does your bank do for you, and do you know the ins and outs of your bank and how it works. Wina, just let me know in the chat function if I was right about Mukuru. But yeah, that's it, Liana. And Time Bank, sorry, I can't leave out Time Bank, also on the scene very recently. Very competitive bank charges. So I do see also it's growing quite quickly. Over to you, Liana.
Thanks so much, Maria, for your input and also keeping an eye on the meeting chat. And thank you for our audience for sharing with us where you're banking. What I did notice is from some of our participants, they've got more than one bank. There might be an ABSA and a Capitec, or a Nedbank and a Capitec. There seems to be a combination and a link with your more conservative type of banks, and then obviously seeing Capitec coming in there as well. But when you look at your bank statements, it is quite important for you to understand all the different fees. And when we are looking at some of these fees, add them all up, because don't fall into the trap like my husband been doing for many, many years and think that it's just an ATM fee or it's just an admin fee or a service fee. You really need to circle all of those fees on your bank statement, add them all up to get an accurate indication of how much this account is actually costing you. And how can you then streamline and reduce on some of those fees? So let's look at some of these fees. I guess the very first one is the withdrawal fees. And withdrawal fees really is applicable when you use your ATM card and you would like to withdraw cash. So I've just shared some of these examples with you on the screen, and I know on your side the writing might be a little low, a little small, but I am going to take you through this, and remember you're going to get a copy of the slides, so this will also help you. So some of the withdrawal fees, of course, we know if you use your own bank, it's more reasonable. But the minute that you start using your ATM card at another ATM, so for example, if you bank with Nedbank and you can't find a Nedbank ATM and you really need to withdraw cash and you use an ABSA or an FNB ATM, the fees are quite high in terms of that withdrawal fee and, of course, in terms of the SAS switch costs that you need to pay. But this particular slide is just looking at a bank comparison. And we're looking at a withdrawal fee of 500 Rand, for example. So how much would it cost you? So if you look at some of these examples, and the first one I'm looking at is an FNB Easy Zero account, and the fee there is 6 Rand to withdraw that 500 Rand. But you can see this graph moving up, and what you want to really track is how often do you withdraw, how much is it costing you, and is there maybe a better way of transacting. A 500 Rand withdrawal can go all the way up to 16 Rand 50, which is, of course, the highest of the scale. And there's also a 10 Rand, which is at one of the net bank accounts. So really be aware of these fees. Try and limit your cash withdrawals. Really ask yourself the question, why do I need cash? How often do I need it? And from a financial coaching perspective, once you've withdrawn the cash, what are you using the cash for? Very important. So then, of course, you also need to think about, how do I review all of this? And I think the best way of getting to the bottom of how much you are paying is to look at 3 months bank statements. You can pull this from your app, your online banking, and really circle all the fees that you've been paying in order to get an average indication. But you also need to look at, what type of banking accounts do I have? Is there a home loan? And what fees am I paying on this home loan? If you check that bank statement, you might notice that there's a monthly administration fee. There might be, of course, your insurance going through, which is not necessarily a fee, but you need to be aware of all of the debits going off that account. There might even be you need to look at your debit interest that's being calculated on this account. You might have a credit card. What are those fees that you are paying? Savings account, even a garage card linked to it. And of course, you might also have vehicle financing. So you have to look at all of the different products that you have available in order to get an accurate indication of all the fees that you are paying. Then you might want to ask yourself, are your banking fees too high? And of course, we know that in South Africa, banking fees have been in the spotlight for many, many years. Most of the banks have looked at their bank fees and they've tried to renegotiate. And at this point in time, you almost want to say, is there still such a thing as loyalty? How long have you been banking with your financial institution? And is it simply because there's loyalty, or is it because you are 100% happy with all of the services that they are offering you? Or is it maybe just a case of, I've been here for so long, I don't really feel like moving my accounts and starting over and building a new relationship with my bank? So we know banking fees have been in the spotlight for many years, and for many years, Capitec has been one of the banks with the lowest fees. Of course, there's now digital entrants, and I know someone mentioned that they're banking with Discovery, there's Time Bank, there's Old Mutual, there's African Bank. So there really is a lot of competition out there, but you do need to make sure what services you require from this, because you might find a bank with a lower monthly fee, but do they actually offer you all the services that you are looking for? So please do your homework. And of course, in today's session, we'll be sharing a lot of sources that you can tap into in order to confirm which bank is the best for you. And you can, of course, reach out to our financial coaching team for some guidance as well. But how do we actually keep those bank costs low? So I mentioned, if you need to withdraw funds, try and do it from your own bank ATM. Go digital. What type of digital apps are you using? And then, of course, don't withdraw too often. Ask yourself the question, what am I doing with this cash? And, of course, safeguard your cards, because we know if you lose a card, there's usually a replacement fee. Some of the banks would say that during a cycle, they would replace it once without any additional cost. But generally speaking, if you misplace or lose, whether it is a debit card, a credit card, an ATM card, there would be a replacement fee in order to get a new card. So be very careful what you do with your cards. So if we look at some of the entry-level bank accounts, and how do we compare these prices in terms of the monthly fees? What we're looking at really is a comparison between just some of the banks. And I've looked here at Capitec Global One with a monthly fee of around R6.50. You also have your Bidvest Bank Grow account, which is at R6. Old Mutual Money, R4.95. And of course, your Standard Bank MyMo at R4.95. FNB EasyGo is at R4.95, and Absa Transact at R4.90. But these really are your entry-level type of accounts. And maybe it would be more advisable or recommendable for like your students or your young adults or even your elderly consumers who don't transact a lot on their accounts to look at these entry-level type of accounts. Look at the withdrawal fees that would be linked to this. And once again, if we look at some of these fees from the banking partners, it ranges from 15 Rand to around 6 Rand, depending on the type of account that you have. Now, we are spoiled with so many different banking institutions in South Africa, but we are also spoiled with so many different banking solutions and products to choose from. You as the consumer need to make sure you select the option that is best suited for you. And of course, you need to be comfortable with the fees that you are paying. Now, let's not forget about the deposit fees. Whenever you withdraw cash, there's a withdrawal fee, but the same rule applies that when you deposit funds into your account, there would be a cash deposit fee, a handling fee almost, and it is important for you to be aware of this as well. Most of the banks has gone the route where they don't necessarily want so many consumers or clients in the branch with large amounts of cash. So they've made it a lot easier. You can, of course, transact and deposit your funds through the ATM, but also be careful security-wise, risk-wise, and then, of course, be aware of the cost. Very important to look at all of these fees. Once again, to deposit an amount of 500 Rand, a minimum of 500 Rand, you'll be looking at a cash deposit fee of around 15 Rand, ranges between 15 Rand to 5 Rand. So it is important to take note and to be aware of these deposit fees as well. So what type of basic products do we generally use in South Africa? It's either using a check account or a transaction account where your salary is paid into. You could potentially make use of a credit card, and of course we'll tap into that. What are your saving solutions? And I have to share a little story with you quickly. This happened over the weekend. I've got a 19-year-old daughter, and she said to me, Mom, you know, her friend has got quite a bit of money in his savings account, and he's so worried that he's going to use this money in the savings account that he decided to withdraw the money out of the savings account. So I said, why did you not speak to me before he did this? So what this child did, or this young adult, he withdrew all the cash from his savings account. So he paid a withdrawal fee. And after discussing it with my daughter, she gave him a bit of guidance and said, why don't you just open a separate savings pocket? Because he was so worried if the money is in his savings account, he's going to use it. But now it's even a bigger risk. He's got the money cash at hand. So what did he do? He decided to go and deposit the money again, go onto his banking app, open a savings pocket and transfer funds. So that was quite an expensive lesson for him to learn. When he looked at the withdrawal fees, the cash deposit fees again, he immediately realized that that was not the best decision. But the reality is, if you don't know about these fees and you don't know what products are available, you too might fall into the trap of making such choices and decisions. Now, in my research, in updating these slides, I found a couple of very useful websites which I would like to share with you today. And one of the sites is the likemoney.co.za site where you can actually compare all the different banking products. Hippo is another site where you're not only just comparing insurance, you can also compare your banking products. And then, of course, it's quite interesting to go to the business tech site and look at the cheapest bank accounts in South Africa. Unfortunately, there's no data for 2023 yet, so this all reflects to 2022, but quite interesting just to have a look at some of that. So I thought what I would do is just share with you, if you do go onto the Like Money site, what you would expect and how you can compare your banking products. So you would log onto the site and it would immediately give you a host of banking services and banking institutions that's available. You can then actually select the banks that you would like to compare. You hit the compare button and it would give you a nice breakdown. So the very first one I looked at was really your current accounts or your check accounts, just to get an indication. And here you can see I randomly looked at the FNB Gold account. There's a Capitec Global One account, and there's the Standard Bank My Mo account. So what this is comparing is the minimum age to open this account, what would be the monthly service fees, and then, of course, what is the monthly income requirements in order to operate this account. So you can immediately see what options are available. So you can play around with this website And you can, of course, compare the different banking options. And I'll share some more examples with you as we go along. But just to take it right back to the basics, a check account. What is a check account? Why do we use this? And, what can we expect from this account? So generally, a check account is more of a transactional account, and it is ideal for someone who's earning a regular income. Like you and I, we're working, we're earning a monthly income. This is where your salary will be paid into, and of course, you can transact in a variety of ways. This includes, of course, using an ATM, your internet, your apps, your cell phone banking, and of course, there's additional features that's available to this account, such as an overdraft facility. So when you look at the different types of check accounts, generally when you start working, we often see this. The banks would reach out to the graduates and they would offer them all these beautiful products, but be aware of what they are offering you. When you open your wallet, what are you seeing? Are you seeing gold cards? Are you seeing platinum? Are you seeing silver, black? What type of cards are you seeing? And what is the reason for that card? Is it a status symbol to whip out the platinum card or the black card? And people say, sure, she's arrived. But what are you paying for that card at the end of the day? And is it really worth it? So yes, most of the banks, if you have a professional qualification, they would offer you a particular package. They would throw in the mix a private banker or a private suite banker or prestige banker. And of course, you've got the benefit of creating that relationship with that particular banker, but it all comes at a fee. They also say that when you apply for credit facilities, you might qualify for a preferential rate. But I also just want to point out that your interest rates are also calculated and based on your individual risk profile. So yes, you might get a slight reduction in the rate because you've got a particular account, but your individual risk rating weighs much more compared to being a prestige banker. So keep all of that in mind when you are offered all these fancy accounts. You want to know exactly how much it's going to cost you. So of course, examples of check account fees, when you look at your bank statement, what can you expect? There would be the withdrawal fees, there would be the deposit fees, those debit order fees, and of course your debit orders would be those fixed payments that you pay on a monthly basis. It could be things like school fees, your insurance, your policies, your medical aid going off your account. Many of the packages usually include a certain number of transactions, whether it is an ATM withdrawal, a certain number of debit order withdrawals, a cash deposit, and thereafter the account starts attracting over and above fees, over and above the monthly service fee. So be aware of all of these fees and really ask the question, do you need all of these services? So look at that fixed monthly fee, because most of the banks offer packages that's very reasonable. And of course, you can even opt for the pay-as-you-go option. Some of the banks would say, right, we give you a very basic account, but as you add on some of these products, you will be charged as you go. So some months you might find you've got more transactions happening on the bank account compared to others, and that you will then see a fluctuation in your monthly service fees as well. So to reduce these charges, what do? Well, that's where the comparison come in. You can, of course, reach out, speak to your bank and see what packages they have available. But it is also important for you to do your homework so that when you have this discussion, you can say, but for the same services, I could pay X amount at another bank. What are you willing to offer me? And unfortunately, there's no such thing as loyalty any longer. If your bank do not come to the party, you can, of course, always switch and save. So for the surface around an overdraft facility, maybe you've considered, or maybe you do have an overdraft facility, it's also important to understand exactly how this facility would work and what would be the cost implication. So an overdraft, of course, is where the bank would look at your income, which is going through the account. They would look at how you're managing your account. They would look at the total number of days that you have funds available in your account. And based on that and your risk profile, they would then come to you and say, okay, based on your behavior, your account behavior and credit behavior, we would like to offer you a facility. Now, this facility could range from 1,000 Rand to hundreds of thousands of rands, depending on your affordability and behavior. So what happens is, linked to your check account, there would be a facility. And if you have utilized your full salary, let's say your salary is 10,000 Rand, you've utilized the full 10,000 Rand, you could then start tapping into the overdraft facility. Be careful, because many people burn their fingers through an overdraft facility. You start relying on that overdraft facility to get through the month. So you're pretty much supplementing your expenses or your lifestyle through the overdraft facility. Remember, it's the bank's money, it's a credit facility, and there's a fee applicable to it. So when you check your bank statements, you'll notice that there's an overdraft facility, and you will also notice the debit interest that's being calculated for the amount of days that you are utilizing that overdraft facility. How do you start eliminating that overdraft facility might be a point of discussion. You really want to then, if you want to get out of the overdraft cycle, and you currently have a fluctuating facility, which means as your salary gets paid into the account, it fills up the overdraft facility again, and you're not really going to see it reducing because you keep on fluctuating and rolling the credit. But if you want to see a real reduction in that overdraft facility, my recommendation would be speak to the bank and say to the bank, I want you to reduce my monthly overdraft by 500 Rand a month. Most banks give you this opportunity on the banking app to also set how much you would like to reduce your overdraft limit by. And slowly but surely, you're going to start minimizing and eliminating the overdraft facility. Now, if anything, please don't fall into the trap like my daughter's friend by wanting to pull out the money because he's worried that he's going to spend it if it's in the savings account. Look at the different saving options that's available to you. But the main thing is, if you want to save, don't leave it in your transactional account. Open a separate savings account or savings pocket where you can transfer the money into so that you're not tempted to use it. You can, of course, look at the money market accounts. They usually require a particular balance to start with. Look at the saving pockets that's linked to your savings or check account. And then, of course, maybe you want to consider a notice periods of account where you need to give 1 day notice or 32-day notice before you gain access to the funds. There's, of course, tax-free saving options that's available through all of the banks, your fixed term savings, and of course your flexible savings products. But it is, once again, quite interesting on that particular website to go and look at the different bank savings accounts. I've randomly just selected Capitec, Standard Bank, FNB, and Nedbank. I've thrown that into the mix just to see at what is the type of interest rates that they are offering, and of course what type of fees will this type of account attract. And you want to make sure that the fees are as low as possible, because you want to start earning interest. You don't necessarily want to save yourself poor. And yes, that is a thing. You can save yourself poor if the interest rate that you are earning is actually lower compared to the service fees and inflation. So have a look at these different saving options, but also ask yourself the question, what is the purpose of my saving? Am I creating an in case of emergency fund? Is this towards a particular medium or long-term goal? Do I need access to the funds quite quickly, or do I want to make sure that it is secure and I don't tap into it on a daily basis? So a lot of options available. Interest rates not that great, although there's been improvement. We know that interest rates have increased around 5 or 6 times over the last 5 or 6 months, really, since mid last year. Great news if you've got savings and investments, not so good if you've got debit card debt facilities. So tapping into the credit card facility, of course, in South Africa, we have so many different options, again, just as many banks that we have options, a big variety. And the credit card really is just another form of credit. And often I get asked the question, if I want to build up my risk profile or my credit profile, would I recommend taking out a credit card to start building up this profile? And my response to that would be, yes, it is a good idea, as long as you're a disciplined consumer. You want to make sure that if you use the credit card to build up your risk profile or your credit score, that you use it in the following way. Look at your budget and maybe then use your credit card for your grocery shopping. So if you have allocated a 2,000 Rand grocery shopping limit in your budget, You can purchase your groceries and items on your credit card, but make sure that you settle that credit card debt at the end of the month. On a credit card, you've got 55 days where you don't pay any debit interest. So you want to get into the habit, you use it, but you pay it back, because the bank will then see that you've got the discipline to use credit, you're paying it, paying on time, not exceeding or maxing the credit card limit, and that all will count in your favor in terms of building up your risk profile and your credit score. Also be aware of the fees applicable to your credit card. There's usually a fee to issue the card, an annual renewal fee, there's your admin fees, your debit interest, and of course penalties if you exceed the credit limit that has been allocated to you. So please be aware of this. Then of course, added to this, there is the option of a budget facility or paying for it straight. So what that really means, when you use your credit card and it's a big purchase and you're worried about the monthly repayment, you could say to the credit provider, please extend this on my budget facility, which is over a longer period of time, maybe 12 months, 24 months. So a longer period of time, giving you more breathing space in terms of paying it back monthly. But keep in mind, debit interest is calculated over that period of time. There's usually also lost card protection fees that you need to pay. And the upswing of it is that if you use your credit card to save in, you could also earn a little bit of interest on this account. So you want to compare the interest that you're going to earn on the credit card and compare it to maybe some of the savings accounts and see what is going to be the better option for you. Some of the benefits in terms of the credit card, like I said, very often we need to purchase something big, might be airplane tickets or it might be booking a holiday, and you don't necessarily have all of the cash handy. You could then use the credit card, but get into the habit of paying it back as quickly as possible. Try not to stretch it over a budget facility, pay it back over a short space of time, and make use of the interest-free within the 55-day period. You might also get better loyalty points when you're utilizing your credit card, and then, of course, compare the cost between your debit and credit card facility. Some of the credit card options, once again, if you compare it on the Like Money site, you can get a definite idea what is the monthly service fees, what is the interest that's being charged on this account, and then, of course, you also want to look at the minimum income requirements. So interest rates, vitally important to understand. Remember, a credit card is an unsecured credit facility. There's no security linked to it other than your income. So usually, in a high-risk type of account, the interest rate would be relatively high. So if we just quickly glance at this, the Nedbank Affinity Credit Card, average interest rate of 19%. Remember, 19% is what's calculated on your outstanding debt. So that's how much the debt is costing you. The FNB Gold account around 14%, the FNB Platinum card around 12%, and then your Standard Bank Blue credit card around 25%. So very important to understand your banking products, your status of your account, and then, of course, what type of interest rate you will be paying. So before we start wrapping up with the different types of solutions and products, and when we get into cybercrime, lending solutions are also available to us. And once again, it's simply just a credit facility that's granted. As we looked at the overdraft facility, the credit card facility, there could potentially also be a personal loan, your home loan, and your vehicle financing options available from your bank. Yes, it helps, if you have been banking with a bank for a long period of time, they get used to your behavior. It builds up your internal score that you generate with the bank. And of course, that would then also count in your favor when you apply for credit facilities. Now, I know this is quite a lot of information to take in, and it might be relatively slow on your small on your side. So therefore, I'll be sharing the slides with you to review. But once again, if you are considering taking out a personal loan, please do your homework, compare what would be the initiation fee, the admin fee, is there credit life linked to it, what is the interest rate that's being charged, and what is the repayment term of this particular facility. Is this the best facility for me to take? Why do I need this personal loan? And try and pay back as quickly as possible. All of the banks offer personal loan facilities, but you want to make sure that you understand all the terms and conditions and exactly how much this facility is going to cost you. Then, of course, we also need to look at the loyalty programs of the different banks. So some of the familiar ones that come to mind is the Standard Bank U-Count, there's the FNB eBucks, and of course the Nedbank Greenbacks and ABSA rewards. But what does this actually mean? And does it really work? So if you look at your bank's loyalty programs, and I've really just looked at the 4 major banks, we know that we've got so many different options available. But do you actually understand exactly how you generate and how you benefit from the loyalty program? So if you're banking with Standard Bank, do you know what the U-Count reward program is all about? And then the same for FNB, Nedbank and ABSA. And I think this little graph really just simplify things a little bit so that you can compare your loyalty program that you are currently receiving comparing to what is available. So just by looking at, the Standard Bank U-Count, you get up to 10% back on your grocery shopping. Now, as a consumer, that is piquing my interest because how much are we paying on groceries every single week? So there's up to 1.5% back on other purchases. If you fill up your vehicle through Caltex, there's also a return per litre of petrol. So if you start running the numbers, what is the benefit that you are receiving here? Same with your FNB eBucks. The percentages are looking a little bit lower, but your 15% fuel back and airtime looks quite inviting. Your Nedbank Greenbacks, you will earn 1 greenback for every 5 Rand spent. So you really want to track this over a period of time so that you can see whether the benefit is worth it, because this is not for free. You're also paying for your loyalty program. So it is important to see, does the cost or the benefit outweigh the cost at the end of the day? And if you look at the first one, your ABSA cashback reward, up to 1% back on your qualifying spend, 5% back on purchases at Sasol service stations. So also giving you that benefit in terms of cashback when you fill up your vehicle. So the next segment, or the last segment of our session, is about the ABC of banking, becoming aware of cybercrime. How can you bolster or make sure that you don't fall into this trap, and how can you communicate and control cybercrime? So Daniela, I am just going to play this quick video clip. I'm hoping that sound is going to pull through. If you can please just give us an indication when I hit play that you can still see the slides and you can hear. Let's watch. Oh dear, looks like it stopped. Let's try that again.
Phishing isn't a new phenomenon, and it can be a real danger to online banking. However, with just a few simple precautions, you can enjoy a simple, convenient, and safe online experience. But how does phishing happen? Well, first we need some criminals. Here are 2 lowlifes. Let's watch. Right, so let's get some information. We need a phishing email.
No one ever responds to those.
I do, they look good. Dear customer, recently made an online payment. Due to a technical error, our system was unable to process the payment correctly. Please log on using the quick link to correct the amount before closing business today. And send.
Don't they know the banks will never send you an email with a link to their website requesting that you log on?
Surprise.
So then what happens?
When you click on the link in the fake mail, the link takes you to the fake website monitored by the thieves. The site asks for all your usual banking details, username, password, and so on. You enter it onto the fake site. The thieves then log into the real banking website and just copy your information across. Because they logged on using all your information, you will even get the security SMS which some banks send to say you're online. Then the thieves can access your account without you knowing.
Your fake website address, it's missing an S. A secure bank site address always starts with HTTPS. Yours is just HTTP.
Yes, of course it is. It needs to send the info to us. It can't be secure.
So even if I click on your phishing email and the web page opens, if I check the address and it doesn't say HTTPS, I can just close the browser.
Yes.
And you can't get my information.
You're focusing on the negatives, Gary.
check for HTTPS and just click. Give me the information. Okay. But it's so easy for people to not click on the links and then just phone their banks instead to check.
They don't. And that's it. Phishing only works if you're willing to get hooked. So remember these 3 easy steps. Never use links sent to you via email. Your bank will never ask you to do this. Check to see if the website address begins with HTTPS. If it doesn't, immediately close the site. And never give out your personal and banking details on email or in a telephonic conversation, as it could be used to commit fraud.
So unfortunately, we know that cybercrime and phishing in South Africa is quite a big problem. And if I had to ask the question, have you been exposed or part of phishing or cybercrime? I'm sure many of our participants today would raise their hand and say, yes, I have been affected by this. So remember that it's very important to make sure whenever you access your bank account, make sure that it is a secure website, that you know exactly what you're clicking on. Don't share your personal information. And of course, always be careful when you use an ATM. Make sure there's no one watching over your shoulder. Protect the PIN number that you are putting in. And yes, it unfortunately happens that when you insert your card, it might be skimming or it might be duplicated. And we only know when there is fraud on our account. I want to share another quick video clip with you. And this is about South Africans or South Africa, the 3rd most likely to fall for online scams. And I'm sure we can get some valuable tips from this quick video clip. I'm not going to play the full video clip because I want to wrap up with information around the Ombudsman. Let's watch.
Welcome back. Now, did you know that South Africans are ranked 3rd most likely to fall for online scams? And that is according to Microsoft in the Global Tech Support Scam Research Report. The report also found that millennials and Gen Z are the most affected groups in this regard. And to discuss this further, I'm joined by Ashley Fenwick, who is a communications lead at Microsoft South Africa. Thanks for coming through, Ashley.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Sakina.
I must say, I was surprised by that information, but talk to us about the report. How was it compiled and how did it come that we rank so highly amongst those who get scammed?
This is the 2nd time we've done the report. First time was in 2016. We've done it across 16 countries, surveying about 16,000 people. Balance of male and female, but in terms of age demographics, we've been proportional to the internet users in the countries we've surveyed. I think the most interesting thing for me and the most important thing for me is, yes, the Gen Zs and the millennials are being caught the most, but since 2016, we've had a 6-point reduction in tech scams happening. And very importantly, we've gone from 8% of people actually paying over money to 4%, which is a drastic reduction in the number of people being caught by them.
But I must say, I was still surprised that it was the millennials and the Gen Zs, given that one would expect them to be a lot more savvy when it comes to these things.
I think savviness gives confidence, and so they're more likely to engage in riskier behavior online and take those risks, which is what the fraudsters are looking for.
And we said South Africa ranks 3rd. Who ranks 1st and 2nd?
I think it's China and Brazil were very high, 1 and 2. Their rates have also reduced. So globally, we've seen a reduction in the amount of fraud and also the people being caught by fraud. And I think this is due to education and people being more aware.
And then, of course, some more information. 18 to 37-year-olds most likely to be scammed. And you'd think it would be the baby boomers or, other generations. What's going on there?
Again, I think when you engage and you're tech savvy, you're more likely to go to sites where you're going to engage in riskier behavior, as we call it, which means that you will get caught. The fraudsters are getting more savvy. They're aware that people are aware of the scams. So they're getting more savvy with what they're doing, which means people are getting caught.
And if one thinks
And I'm going to stop it right there. And of course, when I share the slides, I'll share the link to this video so that you can watch the full interview. So I think it's all about risky behavior. Be careful, protect yourself, make sure that you follow the right protocol. And please remember not to react or respond to certain SMSs or messages that you are receiving from your bank. I think further education is important around some of the phishing emails that we receive. And once again, I'll share this with you, but some of the red flags that you can look out for when you receive a communication from a fraudster would be, and I often see this, they would say, "Dear Mrs. Liana Henning, I know my bank would never address me like that." You also need to keep a lookout, for the contact details, where the email is coming from, is it a Gmail account? And that, of course, could give you an indication that it's not necessarily from your particular bank. There is a lot of ways for people to be scammed. And of course, when you watch the rest of that little interview, it would give you more insight into cybercrime in South Africa. Protect yourself. You can, of course, make sure that you don't download the antivirus software. Make sure that you are the only one that know the login details. And of course, educate yourself by reading the latest scams that are on Security Center, a site that's available to you, and report any phishing emails that you might receive from your bank so that they're also aware of this. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I think really we've covered how you can protect yourself from phishing by keeping your information safe. But what do you then actually do if you've got a concern with your bank? Maybe there's an unresolved matter. You've taken it all the way up and you're not getting the response that you are hoping for. You can, of course, then turn to the banking ombudsman if you are dissatisfied with the services that you've received from your bank. But there are certain steps that you need to follow. You cannot immediately jump to the ombudsman if you are not satisfied with what the bank's telling you. You've got to go through the bank's procedure and, of course, give them the chance to resolve the issue and escalate it within the banking sector. If you are dissatisfied, you can then, of course, contact the Ombudsman for the banking services, and there is a dedicated help desk that you can approach. The email address that you can log into, or the website address, of course, is www.obssa.co.za, and you would simply click on the field where it says complaint, and that would then, of course, give you certain questions that you need to complete. If you need further guidance in terms of reviewing your bank statements, understanding your service fees, you can, of course, reach out to the Wellbeing Program. Your access points are displayed on the screen. You can simply call the 0861 number. You could send a please call me. There's an email address. And if you would like to engage with one of the financial coaches, you can simply scan the QR code which is displayed on the screen. Please remember that the wellness program is available to you no matter where you are in terms of your financial journey, whether you're single and starting out, thinking about commitment, planning that family, maybe you caught up in the sandwich generation, or counting your paychecks until retirement. The program is at no cost. It's accessible. Simply reach out to Ask Nelson and the team will be there to support and assist you. I'm going to wrap it up with literally 1 or 2 minutes to spare. Just to remind you that we will be sharing the slides with everyone. Thank you for joining us for the session this afternoon, for your participation on Mentee polling. And of course, if there's any questions, I'm happy to stay on the line. I'm quickly going to glance through the meeting chat just to see if there's any questions. I know that you've engaged with Maria in terms of the Makuru account, so thank you so much for clarifying. Thanks for giving us an indication where you are banking, and then, of course, apologies about some of the network issues. I'm hoping that you could see and that you could hear the session at the end. Thank you so much for your participation. Until we see each other again, take care, everybody. Stay safe.